Widely regarded as one of the most legendary acts in music history, the Beatles produced an impressive catalog that included 12 studio albums and numerous other releases during their career from 1963 to 1970. Hailing from Liverpool, England, the iconic quartet, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr, were responsible for a multitude of timeless hits, with most of the songwriting credited to the prolific duo of Lennon and McCartney. However, one notable issue has long lingered. Although both Lennon and McCartney were credited on every song they co-authored, in many cases, the writing was done entirely by one of them, without any lyrical or musical input from the other band members. In fact, a number of Beatles songs feature only one member performing on the recording, a detail that has recently reignited fan discussions on platforms like Reddit. One user in the Beatles subreddit raised the topic of songs that were essentially solo efforts released under the band's name. They were referring to tracks that lacked contributions from the other members and could have easily fit into the artist's solo discography. Another fan pointed to Julia from the White Album as a prime example. They explained that John Lennon was solely responsible for the track, both vocally and instrumentally, without input from the rest of the band. Yesterday was also brought up in the thread, with one user recalling that producer George Martin had actually proposed releasing it as a Paul McCartney solo piece. However, that suggestion was reportedly overruled by manager Brian Epstein, who insisted it remain a Beatles release. The Inner Light, a 1968 non-album track, also entered the conversation. One commenter noted its strong resemblance to a solo project, emphasizing that George Harrison was the only Beatle who took part in its recording, except for John and Paul, who briefly joined for the final vocal line. The instrumental backing had been recorded in India during Harrison's Wonderwall music sessions, further highlighting its status as an outlier within the Beatles' catalog. In that fan's view, the track would have made even more sense as a solo release. Attention then returned to the White Album with the mention of Good Night, a Lennon composition sung by Ringo Starr. Meanwhile, McCartney's Goodbye was brought up as a bonus track found only on the deluxe edition of Abbey Road. A user clarified that McCartney had actually written that particular song for Mary Hopkin, and that the version featured in the deluxe release was merely his home demo. Other Reddit contributors highlighted George Harrison's Within You Without You, noting that while the track did include other musicians, no other Beatles participated in the recording. One particularly dedicated fan shared a list they had compiled of Beatles tracks featuring just a single band member. According to their research, these included Yesterday, Paul; Within You Without You, George; Wild Honey Pie, Paul; Blackbird, Paul; Julia, John; Mother Nature's Son, Paul; Good Night, Ringo; and Her Majesty, Paul. The fan concluded by noting that although other Beatles may have been involved in the creative process in various ways, these particular songs stand out because they feature only one of them on the actual recordings.